Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, you know, one of the rough things about doing Washington Gun Law is that I so routinely have to give and break bad news because it seems like if we're not getting kneed in the balls, we're getting kicked in the shins. However, occasionally, good news comes along, and this has been a few days of some really good news. So most of you already know about the big, huge news, of course, that being Duncan v. Bonta. Fantastic news, and we've been doing a few videos on that already. But there's some other things we need to be real happy and celebrate as well. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about the second best Second Amendment news you'll hear all week. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. We're talking about good news today. Hooray. Okay, we're going to actually talk to you more specifically about some other good news items that you maybe had missed because we've all been focusing on the biggest good news item, which of course was the ruling in Duncan v. Bonta. Judge Benitez has yet again ruled that California's magazine ban is unconstitutional. Washington and Oregon, you should take note since your statutes are virtually identical and verbatim on that. Now, we're still kind of in that 10-day window where the injunction has been stayed and the state of California is clearly crapping its pants, and we're going to see an appeal to a full en banc panel, and that's kind of where the rubber is going to meet the road, but this is clearly fantastic news. And for those of us who are still waiting for Miller v. Bonta, which deals with California's assault weapon ban, we like what we see so far. So if we're reading the tea leaves right now, things are looking really good. So that absolutely takes the cake for the best Second Amendment news we got all week. But I'm going to give you two other ones, and they're really both good items as well. The first one is more for my hometown crowd here in Washington State. Many of you, especially those of you who geek out during the legislative session, you all know Dan Mitchell down at Sporting Systems in Vancouver, Washington. Dan has been an absolute warrior for all of our Second Amendment rights. He's in Olympia every year, fighting the insanity, just fighting like holy hell. He's been a member of the Washington Civil Rights Association for a number of years, and over the weekend he announced via his social media platforms that he has been selected to the board of directors to the Second Amendment Foundation. This is a fantastic piece of news for Dan. It's a fantastic piece of news for the Second Amendment Foundation to get someone of Dan's caliber to join them. So this is good news for everyone in Washington. Ultimately, this is good news for anybody who's benefiting from the hard work of the Second Amendment Foundation. For those of you outside of the state of Washington, you will have no better and more dedicated warrior to the cause than Dan Mitchell. So Dan, congratulations to you, and to the Second Amendment Foundation, congratulations for that fantastic selection. That's the first piece of good news. Now, the second piece of good news actually started as some bad news last week, and that is that President Biden had announced that he was going to create his first ever committee on gun violence prevention. And of course, we realized that that would really be nothing more than the Ministry of Disarmament. Now, what had us originally concerned is when you take a look at who President Biden had selected: Stephanie Feldman, longtime advisor; Greg Jackson of the Community Justice Action Fund; and Rob Wilcox, Director of Federal Affairs for Everytown. Things were, you know, you had to be a little bit worried that this is a group that could actually get things together. However, if you wanted to absolutely, positively kill any momentum, if you wanted to make sure that this committee got absolutely nothing done at all, how would you do that? Well, if I were the president and I wanted to do that, I would appoint Vice President Kamala Harris to head up the committee. And guess what? That is exactly what President Biden has done. Let us all celebrate. Now, I know some people will say that I am criticizing the vice president because of her gender or the color of her skin. I can assure you that is not. I like to actually use objective criteria when I criticize people here. And in this case, when we're talking about politicians, well, we just take a look at their track record so far. So as vice president, how has Vice President Harris done with the 4 major tasks that she was assigned to by the president, all of which received significant fanfare, lots of media coverage? This is the vice president going to take this on and get this done. Okay, number one, she was going to expand abortion rights. Okay, now I am not going to touch that issue with a 10-foot pole, but I will remind the White House that during the time that she's been the vice president, the Dobbs decision has come out. So Don't know how well you think that's working right now. Okay, second thing. She was going to advance voting rights, and specifically, she was going to get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. And she could have done that in the first 2 years, when they had a majority in both the Senate and the House. Oh, yeah, that's right. She didn't get that passed at all, okay? And despite the fact that they are consistently saying that voting is being suppressed, we see the numbers every time grow exponentially, including some numbers that some people have found questionable, okay? So, hey, again, how do you all think she's done on that one? Okay, the third thing, this one's kind of funny, the southern border. That's right. She's our border czar. Now, I don't even think you have to ask any of us how she's doing right now with the southern border. I think you should just ask Mayor Eric Adams of New York City, or Governor Kathy Hochul of New York, or any of the other communities that are being completely overrun by this immigration crisis, which is completely self-created. It is all preventable. It is all self-created. And so how do we think that the vice president has done on that? The final thing, and I find this to be perhaps the most ironic, is she is also the czar on artificial intelligence, which is actually quite fitting because she has zero real intelligence, and any intelligence that she may have, and I'm yet to see her actually demonstrating any of that, would be artificial in its origin to begin with. So when we take a look at the vice president's track record, when we take a look at the vice president's ability to communicate, when we take a look at this particular vice president's ability to do just about anything, I don't believe that the president could have selected a better individual to head this committee up for those of us who want to see this committee do absolutely nothing. Listen, that is the second best, the Second Amendment news that you will hear all week. If you got any other questions about this, or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That information is right down there in the description box. Now, in the meantime, let's all remember that part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay safe.